For decades, we've had this incredibly heavy, honestly, kind of depressing assumption hanging over our heads. The idea was simple. If you want to grow a nation's wealth and pull people out of poverty, you inevitably have to burn more fuel and damage the environment. But what if I told you that's actually no longer a hard rule? What if we have the data to prove it?
The old thinking was literally just a one-to-one ratio. More GDP equals more emissions. They were locked together in this unavoidable tug of war. But the new reality we're seeing emerge globally is this fascinating concept called economic decoupling. It's the idea that a country can absolutely get richer without correspondingly destroying the environment. And the secret to unlocking this shift? Well, it all comes down to a single, highly effective yet often completely misunderstood metric.
Welcome to this explainer. Let's dive right in, shall we? Today, we're putting on our energy expert hats to guide you through the true metric of any national energy transition, and that is energy intensity. We are moving way beyond those simple total energy consumption numbers to uncover what really drives sustainable, long-term growth. Here is our roadmap for today. First, decoding energy intensity. Second, global decoupling examples. Third, crucial KPIs and thresholds. Fourth, common transition mistakes. And finally, a 5-point action checklist.
Okay, Section 1, Decoding Energy Intensity.
So what exactly is it? Essentially, energy intensity is a measure of an economy's energy inefficiency. Think of it kind of like a miles per gallon rating, but for an entire country's economy. If a country has a high energy intensity, it means they're paying a massive premium, in energy terms, just to convert fuel into gross domestic product. The math driving this KPI is actually incredibly straightforward. You just take total energy consumption and divide it by the GDP. And the ultimate goal here? We want a lower ratio. A lower number means it costs way less energy to produce economic wealth. It signifies a highly efficient, often less labor-intensive, and much more technologically advanced economy. Moving right along to Section 2, Global Decoupling Examples. Let's look at the gold standard of what we call absolute decoupling. Take Germany's progress since 1990, for example. Their GDP has been trending steadily up, while their absolute CO2 emissions are actually trending down. There's no magic trick here. It's the direct result of shifting away from heavy manufacturing towards services, implementing strict energy efficiency policies, and utilizing programs like their Energy Agenda that aggressively stimulated renewable energy growth. So wealth goes up and absolute emissions go down. But the story really changes depending on where you look. In middle-income nations like China and Brazil, we see what's known as relative decoupling. Their emissions and energy demand are still rising, sure, but their GDP is rising so much faster thanks to massive renewable investments and efficiency quotas. Contrast that with coupled growth in low-income nations. There, a lack of clean infrastructure means GDP and fossil fuel emissions are still tightly locked together, basically rising hand in hand. Section 3, Crucial KPIs and Economic Traps. 0.44%. Now, this isn't just some arbitrary number. According to advanced threshold analysis of transition economies, this is the literal tipping point for energy intensity. If a country's energy intensity stays below this level, their energy consumption actually boosts economic growth. But if it creeps above 0.44%, that energy consumption becomes a huge burden and significantly retards a country's economic growth. It basically becomes an economic trap. And speaking of traps, here is another massive one, the $5,000 per capita income mark. The data clearly shows that as a developing country's income grows, its energy intensity naturally improves as they adopt better tech. But right at that $5,000 per capita mark, that natural improvement suddenly slows down by over 30%. To push past this $5,000 trap, a country absolutely cannot rely on natural market forces anymore. They have to implement aggressive, targeted energy efficiency policies to keep that momentum going. All right, Section 4, Common Transition Mistakes. Because relying on good intentions without watching the right KPIs, that leads to serious pitfalls. First up is ignoring the water-energy-food nexus. As an example, research out of South Africa shows that high water withdrawal intensity drastically drives up energy demand, simply because pumping and treating all that water takes massive amounts of power. Second, electrifying everything is great, but doing it on a carbon-heavy grid just moves the emissions around. And finally, a really surprising one, the initial rollout of renewables can actually increase energy intensity temporarily. Why? Because manufacturing solar panels and upgrading grid flexibility requires a huge initial energy investment upfront. Which brings us to Section 5, the 5-point action checklist. So how do governments actually master this transition based on global data?
Here's a quick, actionable checklist derived from top-performing economies. 1. Shift the economic structure toward high-value services rather than heavy manufacturing. 2. Mandate industrial energy audits, much like China's Top 1,000 Enterprises program, which sets strict benchmarks. 3. Invest heavily in renewable grid integration to smooth out those initial transition inefficiencies we just talked about. 4. Improve water use efficiency, because remember, saving water literally saves the energy used to pump it. And 5. Upgrade urban infrastructure with sustainable transport and compact city planning to really leverage those economies of scale. I want to leave you with this defining quote from the source material. When countries move beyond lower middle-income levels, energy efficiency policies become far more critical for sustaining the rate of improvement. The primary takeaway here: energy efficiency is not automatic. Decoupling economic growth from environmental destruction requires intentional, heavily data-driven policy. It requires obsessing over energy intensity. So here is my final thought and challenge for you. What is your country's energy intensity? Are its policies truly driving economic decoupling, or are they just temporarily masking the problem? I highly encourage you to dive into the data, look way beyond those simple consumption metrics, and see for yourself. Thank you so much for exploring this explainer with me today. Stay curious, stay focused, and keep asking the right questions.